Hello my dear students, welcome to this session. Earlier we have started with chapter 9, that is biomolecules, and even we had discussed about the biomolecules, the examples and the primary as well as secondary metabolites in the previous session. And we have classified all these biomolecules as amino acids, nucleotide bases, fatty acids, sugars, etc. So today we are going to start with a new topic, that is about amino acids. What are amino acids? You must have heard these terms many times, but now today we will learn about the basic structure or molecular structure of amino acids. Actually, amino acids are organic compounds which contain an amino group, that is NH2, and an acidic group, that is COOH, as substituent on the same carbon. So here the diagram you are able to see, this is the central carbon, and on one of the side NH2 group, that is amino group, is there on the, so this is an alpha carbon, and that is why these are also known as alpha amino acids. And this is the carboxyl group, as well as this is H, the simple hydrogen molecule, that is hydrogen element that is attached, and this is R group, which is also known as alkyl group, and it is variable. बाकी सारे स्टैटिक हैं, वो चेंज नहीं होते हैं, खाली आर ग्रुप की वजह से अमीनो एसिड्स भी डिफरेंट प्रेजेंट होते हैं और आर ग्रुप में ही चेंजेस पॉसिबल हैं. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो नोन एज अ वेरिएबल which is attached. R group is variable here, and based on the nature of this R group only, there are many type of amino acids. Actually those which occur in proteins, they are only of 20 types. We all know that protein molecule, it is made up of amino acids. That is why we are discussing about it. And the R group in these proteinaceous amino acid could be a hydrogen, which is found in glycine. We will see the structure later on. So glycine contain only H instead of, means in place of R group. Then in alanine, methyl group is present, that is CH3. Then serine, hydroxymethyl is present. So in this way all these structure we will see later on. So glycine, alanine and serine, these are amino acids which are containing different R groups. If we talk about the chemical and physical properties of amino acids, they are essentially of amino as well as carboxyl and R functional group. इनकी वजह से ही properties change होंगी. अगर हम amino group की बात करें तो ये basic nature का है, कार्बोक्सिल की बात करें तो ये acidic nature का है, और R group जो भी functional group present होगा उसके हिसाब से इसकी nature या property होगी. So based on number of amino and carboxyl group, there are acidic amino acids like glutamic acid. Some are basic such as lysine, and some are neutral amino acids, for example valine. So in this way these names also you have to remember. Similarly there are aromatic amino acids also, जिसके अंदर cyclic ring present होती है. ये सब chemistry का part है, आपको chemistry आनी चाहिए ये chapter समझने के लिए. ये मैंने last session में भी आपको बोला था. So please do revise all the organic compound lectures in chemistry, then it will be easier for you to remember. So aromatic amino acids, for example tyrosine, phenylalanine and tryptophan. Even a particular property of amino acid is the ionizable nature of amino as well as carboxyl group. That is why when in solution of different pH, the structure of amino acid changes also. So in this diagram you are able to see the Zwitter ionic form which is centrally present, and it is changeable. That's why the equilibrium, after attaining the equilibrium, the B formula, that is showing the zwitteronic ion, and you can see at one of the side the positively charged ion, and in another side the negatively charged ion that is present. So it is a polar molecule, and even it is changeable. So in this way, depending upon the nature of all these things, means amino group, carboxyl group and R group, the type of amino acid, it can be decided. So all these formulas and diagrammatic representation, they are important to draw in your classwork. Here again let us see the structure of only amino acid. You can see here the H, it represents hydrogen molecule, then NH2, it represents amino group, COOH, it represents carboxyl group, and lastly R group, which is also known as alkyl group, that is denoted by capital R. So in this way, in the structure of this, and they all are attached to the same alpha carbon, that's why alpha amino acid we are calling them. So only we all know that carbon has 4 valency and at all the positions it is occupied by different elements. Now here in this diagram, the sugars or the carbohydrates, they are also shown, but right now we are not focusing on carbohydrates, but we will understand the diagrammatic representation of some of the amino acids which are described earlier. So this first diagram, it is showing glycine, because R group has only hydrogen atom. Okay. Then this is next alanine. It has methyl group CH3 in place of R alkyl group. Then last one is serine. It has hydroxymethyl group, that is CH2OH, and that is why it is serine, and here the R group is of this type. Otherwise all the remaining 3, they are static. You can see in every type of amino acid, H, carboxyl group and amino group, they are remaining same. Okay. So this was all about amino acid. These diagrams you have to draw in your classwork. Now let us discuss about sugars. Though this topic is new, and about the sugars you must be knowing glucose is the best example, we all know, and glucose is a type of hexose sugar, because its formula, if you remember, C6H12O6, and that is why it is a hexose sugar, and in this way it represents the diagrammatic representation. Similarly, another example is of ribose. So ribose sugar, it is a pentose sugar. It has 5 carbon, that's why it is a formula having C5H10O5. So in this way, 2 different type of hexose sugar and pentose sugar we have understood. Now these structures, they will be the basic forms of sugars or carbohydrates which are utilized in our body. Even certain other structures like polysaccharides and disaccharides, they are formed due to the combination of forming the chains of all these glucose or ribose sugars, that means hexose and pentose sugar. So let us understand about polysaccharides in next slide. Okay, let us start with polysaccharides, which is another topic. As I have said to you earlier, polysaccharides, they are formed of long chains of these sugars, and basically here the sugar we are concerned with hexose sugar. Okay, and they are formed of the sugar's basic monosaccharides. Okay, so polysaccharides are long chains, and the examples first of all will describe. Here examples I have mentioned in the boxes, like cellulose, starch, glycogen and inulin. These are some of the examples regarding polysaccharides. Let us see the description of all these examples. I think so cellulose is familiar to you. It is present, it is the basic substance which is forming the cell wall in plant cell. Okay, and basically if we discuss about its structure, it is a polymeric polysaccharide which consists of only one type of monosaccharide, that is only glucose. So when the long chain of glucose molecules, they joined by one another, they will form a cellulose. So we can say that cellulose is a homopolymer. Homo means similar, right? So here similar units, they are joined. Only glucose units, they are joined with one another to form polysaccharide. Now let us discuss about another substance, that is starch. इसके बारे में भी आपको मालूम है, the extra energy it is stored in the form of starch in plant tissue, and starch is acting as an energy source. जब भी ज़रूरत पड़ती है बॉडी को, प्लांट बॉडी हो या एनिमल बॉडी हो, बट यहाँ पे हम प्लांट बॉडी की बात कर रहे हैं, then starch it is utilized because it is stored in the plant tissues. Similarly, we will talk about the same type of variant which is found in animal cell. Animal body में starch स्टोर नहीं होता, स्टार्च फॉर्म में फूड स्टोर नहीं होता, यहाँ पे ग्लाइकोजन फॉर्म में स्टोर होता है. एंड ग्लाइकोजन इज ऑल्सो फॉर्म्ड ऑफ ग्लूकोज यूनिट्स. सिमिलरली अनदर पॉलीसेकेराइड नोन एज इनुलिन, इट इज़ अ पॉलीमर ऑफ फ्रक्टोज. यहाँ पे फ्रक्टोज की बहुत सारी यूनिट्स जॉइन होके ये सब्सटेंस बनाती हैं. ओके, सो इन दिस वे इन अ पॉलीसेकेराइड चेन, for example glycogen, the right end is called the reducing end and the left end is known as non-reducing end. And starch forms helical structure, secondary structure ये थोड़ा सा helix form में होता है. And in fact starch can hold 12 molecules in the helical portion. तो ये इसका थोड़ा ज़्यादा describe हमने किया है. So students, we have discussed about cellulose earlier, and cellulose, it is forming the plant cell wall, and even the paper, it is made from plant pulp which is a cellulose. Even the cotton fibers are also made up of cellulose. So these are some of the examples, and there are more complex polysaccharides also which are found in nature, but here more detail is not discussed. It is not included in our syllabus. Even they have a building blocks as amino sugars, means amino acids are also joined with the sugars, and chemically they are modified sugars like glucosamine. So here glucose word is related to carbohydrate and amine word is concerned with amino acids. Even N-acetyl galactosamine, etc. So all these are some complex type of polysaccharides. Even if we see the another example, that is the exoskeleton. That skeleton which is found outside the body, it is known as exoskeleton. So exoskeletons of arthropoda, we have learned earlier. For example, they have a complex polysaccharide which is known as chitin. So chitin is present in its exoskeleton. Okay, so these complex polysaccharides are also heteropolymers and they exist. So these are also some of the other examples. Now let us understand the diagrammatic representation of a portion of glycogen with the help of this diagram. So here glycogen, as we have discussed earlier, it is also one of the food source which is stored in the animal's tissue or animal's body, and wherever required it is used. So here the glucose units, they are shown. These are glucose units and they are attached by the bonds. Even here you can see the branching, and these branching are shown in the line diagram form also and with the help of the molecular structure also. So you can understand better that how the structure of glycogen that is formed. And here particularly the bonding which is formed between two glucose molecule, that is denoted by O. So O here, it is the glycosidic bond which is formed between two adjacent or nearby glucose units. Okay, so we will discuss later on about the bondings present between the different biomolecules, but here I will be telling you in earlier sessions that this bond which is formed between the two glucose units, that is known as glycosidic bond. And here glycogen is showing the branching also. Actually this diagram is not compulsory to draw in your classwork, only understand its basic structure. Now the next topic which we are going to start, that is lipids. So lipids is also one of the form found in food. As we have discussed earlier, carbohydrate is one of the form and lipids are also found in the food. Then basically if we see the examples of lipids, the oil, ghee, all these are included. And we all know that these oil or ghee, they are not soluble in water. That is why if we see the property of lipids, lipids are generally water insoluble. They are not at all soluble in the water. Basically they could be simple type of fatty acids. Actually this fatty acid word, it is concerned with the structure of lipid. If we see the lipid structure, two things they are present, the long chains of fatty acids as well as glycerol. So we will discuss about them. A fatty acid has a carboxyl group, that is COOH, which is attached to an R group, that is alkyl group. And this R group could be a methyl, that is CH3, or even ethyl, that is C2H5 having 2 carbon, and even higher number of carbons or methyl group they may be present, like extending from 1 carbon up to 19 carbon molecule. So you can imagine how complicated structure is present of fatty acids. For example, palmitic acid has 16 carbon including carboxyl group. Even another example is arachidonic acid. It has 20 carbon atoms including carboxyl carbon. Carboxyl carbon is that in which the carbon having attached of carboxyl group, it is attached to the carbon. Then here fatty acids could be of two types. They are saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. You can you know better the meaning of saturated and unsaturated. This is taken from chemistry. So saturated compounds are those which have no double bonds in between the two carbon atom, adjacent carbon atom. But unsaturated compounds are those having double bonds between the carbon atoms. Okay, so here also if we see the structure of fatty acids, they have at certain places double bond if they are unsaturated fatty acids, and if they are saturated they have only single bonds present between the two adjacent carbon atoms. Okay, so as I have said to you, in simple lipids glycerol is also present, which is actually trihydroxypropane, and many of the lipids they have both glycerol as well as fatty acids. So different type of fatty acids or lipid molecules they are found. Here the fatty acids are found actually esterified with glycerol, and even they can be either monoglycerides having single unit, diglycerides having 2 units, or triglycerides having 3 units. Means glycerol may be of single presence or presence of 2 glycerol molecules or presence of 3 glycerol molecules. So in this way monoglycerides, diglycerides and triglycerides. Even there are also fats and oils which are based on melting point. So we can say that simple lipids or triglycerides, they can contain fats or oils. Actually oils have lower melting point, for example gingerly oil, and hence they remain as oil in winters also. Otherwise क्या होता है कि winter में कोई भी आप देखो oil वो जम जाता है, it solidifies. So here gingerly oil, it has lower melting point. Then special type of lipids which are also known as phospholipids. आप देखो phospho word is attached here, and phospholipids they are found in the structure of plasma membrane also, ये हमने पढ़ लिया है. And some of the lipids they have phosphorus and phosphorylated organic compounds in them, दैट इज़ वाई दे आर नोन एज फॉस्फोलिपिड्स। जैसे हमने एग्जाम्पल लिया अभी, सेल मेम्ब्रेन में प्रेजेंट होते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेसिथिन, लेसिथिन इज़ वन ऑफ द फॉस्फोलिपिड। And some tissues, especially the neural tissue, they have lipids with more complex structure also। आपने देखा होगा माइलिन शीथ हमने लेबल किया था जब हमने नर्वस टिश्यू के बारे में पढ़ा था, न्यूरॉन के बारे में पढ़ा था, हमने एक लेबलिंग किया है माइलिन शीथ। सो दिस माइलिन शीथ इट इज़ मेड अप ऑफ दिस स्पेशल लिपिड कॉम्प्लेक्स मॉलिक्यूल। Now let's see how the fats and oils, they are the form of lipids, they are shown। आप देखो यहाँ पे this is the structure of fatty acid, और इसमें सबसे पहला एग्जाम्पल है पाल्मिटिक एसिड। आप देखो इसमें कितने कार्बन हैं आप काउंट कर सकते हो, 16 कार्बन कंपाउंड है ये। एंड नेक्स्ट डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन इज ऑफ ग्लिसरॉल, जिसके अंदर 3 मॉलिक्यूल्स ऑफ 3 एटम्स ऑफ कार्बन दे आर जॉइंड। And next diagrammatic representation is of triglyceride। तो यहाँ पे this is showing the 3 fatty acids which are joined here। आप देखो R1, R2 and R3। तो 3 फैटी एसिड्स चेन जुड़े हुए हैं, और फैटी एसिड्स कितना भी लंबा हो सकता है, हमने देखा था अभी C19 और 20 और C16 तक भी, ठीक है। देन नेक्स्ट डायग्राम आप देखो फॉस्फोलिपिड का है, लेसिथिन, एंड दिस इज़ फाउंड एट द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन और सेल मेम्ब्रेन। तो आप देखो कितना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड स्ट्रक्चर है। देन लास्ट वन इज़ ऑफ कोलेस्ट्रॉल, और कोलेस्ट्रॉल तो साइक्लिक कंपाउंड से बना हुआ है। तो आप देखो कितनी स्टेबिलिटी होगी, या इसको दूसरे फॉर्म में चेंज करने में कितनी एनर्जी एज वेल एज अदर रिएक्शंस उसके लिए हेल्प लेनी पड़ती होगी। सो दीज आर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड स्ट्रक्चर्स, और लिपिड मॉलिक्यूल इज़ अ वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड कॉम्प्लेक्स मॉलिक्यूल हैविंग कॉम्प्लिकेटेड स्ट्रक्चर्स, एंड बेसिकली इसके अंदर कार्बन, हाइड्रोजन एंड ऑक्सीजन मॉलिक्यूल्स प्रेजेंट होते हैं। सो यहाँ पे देखिए आप, इसको अदर फॉर्म में भी डिस्प्ले किया जा सकता है। सबसे पहला डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन है फ्री फैटी एसिड का, ठीक है, इसको इस तरह से भी डिनोट किया जा सकता है। नेक्स्ट इसका स्ट्रक्चर है ट्राइग्लिसराइड। यहाँ पे CH2C² ऐसा नहीं लिखा है, बट पूरी चेन फॉर्म करके बताई है, और कहीं कहीं पे डबल बॉन्डिंग भी शो की है, लाइक हियर। सो दिस इज़ अ मॉलिक्यूल ऑफ ट्राइग्लिसराइड। ट्राइग्लिसराइड हमको मालूम है इसमें 3 फैटी एसिड्स होते हैं, R1, R2 एंड R3। द नेक्स्ट डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन है फॉस्फोलिपिड का। फॉस्फोलिपिड इज फाउंड इन द सेल मेम्ब्रेन, एंड लास्ट वन इज ऑफ कोलेस्ट्रॉल। तो इनको इस तरह से भी रिप्रेजेंट किया जा सकता है। सो स्टूडेंट्स, आज हमने बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर्स पढ़े। सबसे पहले अमीनो एसिड्स का, उसके बाद हमने शुगर्स के बारे में डिस्कस किया, जिसमें मोनोसेकेराइड, डाइसेकेराइड एंड पॉलीसेकेराइड, और ज़्यादा डिटेल हमने पॉलीसेकेराइड के बारे में पढ़ा। बट स्टिल ग्लूकोज इज़ अ मोनोसेकेराइड, इवन फ्रक्टोज इज़ अ मोनोसेकेराइड, एंड इवन पेंटोज शुगर इट इज़ अ मोनोसेकेराइड। तो इनके बारे में भी हमने पढ़ा, एंड लास्ट में हमने लिपिड्स के बारे में डिस्कस किया, और इन सब की इम्पोर्टेंस फंक्शनली एज वेल एज स्ट्रक्चरल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ बॉडी आप देखोगे कहीं ना कहीं इनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट आपको दिखेगा। सो दीज आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स। ये पूरा चैप्टर बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है, नया है, इसलिए आपको इसको अच्छे से लिख के प्रैक्टिस ही करना पड़ेगा, तभी ये याद रहेगा। क्योंकि केमिकल स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं, आप जैसे केमिस्ट्री में लर्न करते हो वैसे ही आपको इस चैप्टर में थोड़ा यू हैव टू वर्क हार्ड, आई मीन टू से दैट। तो इस तरह से आप वर्क करना, ठीक है। टिल देन एन्जॉय योर सेल्फ, टेक केयर, बाय बाय स्टूडेंट्स।